You are standing in your driveway, looking at the home you have owned for 30 years. You feel a profound sense of accomplishment. You watched our previous investigative reports. You watched as hundreds of thousands of Canadians lost their homes because they lied on their mortgage applications and got caught in the Great Bank Audit. You watched as desperate investors were crushed by the liquidity crisis in the shadow banking sector. You even double-checked your home insurance policy after our last video to make absolutely sure you were not blacklisted by the underwriting algorithms. You feel safe because you hold the ultimate financial shield. You have a piece of paper that says your mortgage is discharged. You own your home free and clear. You have no debt. You believe that no bank, no private lender, and no insurance company can ever take your sanctuary away from you. You are completely insulated from the financial collapse. Then you walk to your mailbox. Inside, mixed with the grocery flyers, is a plain brown envelope from the municipality. It is a final notice. And in that moment, the financial shield you spent your entire life building shatters into a million pieces. Welcome back to Canada Property Watch. Over the past month, we have taken you deep into the mechanics of the Great Canadian Deleveraging. We have exposed the ruthless legal clauses that banks and private lenders use to seize distressed assets. But today, we are going to look at a mechanism of wealth destruction that is so powerful it completely bypasses the banking system altogether. It is a legal loophole that allows a government entity to seize a fully paid off $1 million family home over a debt of just a few $1,000s. Today, we are exposing the terrifying reality of the municipal tax sale. We are going to explain why local governments across the country are quietly transforming from administrative bodies into aggressive asset liquidators, auctioning off the homes of senior citizens and over-leveraged investors to the highest bidder. If you own property in Canada, whether you have a massive mortgage or no mortgage at all, you must understand the lethal power of the Super-Priority Lien. To comprehend why this is happening right now, in 2026, we have to look at the macroeconomic crisis facing Canadian municipalities. Cities like Toronto, Vancouver, Calgary, and hundreds of smaller towns are facing a financial wall. For a decade, they relied on the booming real estate market. They collected massive revenues from land transfer taxes and developer development charges. They built expensive infrastructure, hired more municipal workers, and expanded social services. But the real estate market has frozen. The transaction volume has collapsed. The developers have stopped building. The golden goose is dead. Suddenly, these cities are staring down catastrophic budget deficits. By law, municipalities in Canada are not allowed to run operating deficits. They cannot simply print money like the federal government. They must balance their books every single year. So, how do they fill a billion-dollar hole? They have only one lever left to pull. Property taxes. We have seen municipalities across the country pushing through unprecedented double-digit property tax increases. A 10%, 12%, or even 15% hike in a single year. For the average Canadian family already drowning in inflation, high grocery costs, and stagnant wages, this tax hike is the breaking point. They look at their monthly budget and the math simply does not work. They have to make a choice. Do they buy groceries? Do they pay the hydro bill? Or do they pay the city? Many people make the fatal calculation that the city can wait. They think it is just the government. They will just charge me a little bit of interest. I will catch up next year when things get better. This is the most dangerous assumption a homeowner can make because the municipality is not a credit card company. The municipality holds a weapon that no other creditor possesses. This weapon is called the Super-Priority Lien. In the hierarchy of debt, while not all debts are created equal. If you do not pay your credit card, the bank can sue you, but they are an unsecured creditor. They are at the bottom of the pile. If you do not pay your mortgage, the bank can foreclose because they are a secured creditor. But sitting at the absolute top of the pyramid, looking down on the Royal Bank, looking down on TD, looking down on the private lenders, is the municipality. Under the Municipal Act, property tax arrears form a special lien on the land that takes priority over almost every other claim, including existing mortgages. Let us walk through the agonizing bureaucratic timeline of how you lose your home to the city. It does not happen overnight. It is a slow, methodical process that preys on the psychological paralysis of the homeowner. It usually begins when a homeowner falls into arrears for 2 consecutive years. The city sends warning letters, but the homeowner, overwhelmed by shame and financial terror, often ignores them. They put the letters in a drawer. They are paralyzed by the reality of their situation. Once the statutory time limit is reached, the city's tax department takes a definitive legal step. They register a document on the title of the property called a tax arrears certificate. The moment this document is registered, the clock starts ticking on the final countdown. The homeowner is given 1 year, the redemption period, to pay the back taxes, the accumulated penalty interest, and the municipal administrative costs in full. There are no payment plans at this stage. There is no negotiation. It is a demand for a lump sum payment. This is where we must discuss the tragic irony of the paid-off home. If you have a mortgage and the city registers a tax arrears certificate on your title, the city is legally obligated to notify your bank. The bank receives the notice and immediately panics. Why? Because the bank knows that the city's tax lien supersedes their mortgage. If the city auctions the house, the city gets paid first, and the bank might lose its collateral. So, the bank acts as your financial bodyguard, but a very aggressive one. The bank will immediately pay your tax debt to the city to clear the certificate and protect their position. Then, the bank will add that massive expense to your mortgage principal and immediately call your loan in default for breaching the covenant to pay taxes. You will still face foreclosure from the bank, but the house will be sold at somewhat near market value through the standard real estate process. But what if you do not have a bank? What if you are a 70-year-old widow who paid off her house 20 years ago? You have a fixed pension. Your property taxes jumped from $5,000 to $8,000 a year. You could not pay. The city registers the certificate. Because there is no mortgage on the title, there is no bank to notify. There is no financial institution to step in and pay the arrears to protect the asset. You are entirely exposed to the cold, automated machinery of municipal law. You are standing alone against the state. When the 1-year redemption period expires, the municipality has the absolute legal authority to liquidate the asset. They do not list your home with a friendly real estate agent on the multiple listing service. They do not stage the home with modern furniture to get you the highest possible price. They do not care about your equity. They initiate a municipal tax sale. This is a public auction or a public tender process. The city places a small, easily missed advertisement in the local newspaper or the provincial gazette. They announce that your property will be sold to the highest bidder. But here is the part that destroys generational wealth. The minimum starting bid for the auction is not the market value of the home. The minimum bid is simply the exact amount of taxes owed, plus the legal and administrative fees. That is it. If your home is worth $1.2 million, but you owe $30,000 in back taxes, the opening bid is $30,000. On the day of the tax sale, a specific breed of investor gathers at the municipal office. These are not families looking for a starter home. These are professional distressed asset buyers. They are vultures circling a wounded animal. They know the laws inside and out. They submit their sealed bids. The bids are opened, and the property is awarded to the highest bidder. The winning bid might be $200,000 for a house worth over $1 million. The city takes their $30,000 to clear the tax debt, covers their administrative costs, and the title is officially transferred to the investor. You, the homeowner, are evicted. You are thrown out of the house you lived in for decades, not because you owed a massive mortgage, but because you owed a fraction of the home's value to the local government. But what happens to the rest of the money? What happens to the difference between the $200,000 winning bid and the $30,000 owed to the city? That is $170,000 of surplus cash. Surely the city cuts a check to the evicted senior citizen, right? Wrong. The city does not hand you a check. By law, the municipality takes that surplus money and pays it into the provincial court system. It is now up to the former homeowner, who is newly homeless, traumatized, and financially ruined, to hire a lawyer and apply to the court to claim those surplus funds. And there is a strict time limit. In many jurisdictions, you have exactly 1 year to claim the surplus from the court. If you do not hire a lawyer, and file the correct legal motions, and claim the money within that specific time frame, The money is forfeited. It is absorbed by the public trustee or the municipality. You lose the house, you lose the equity, and you lose the surplus. It is the most complete, absolute, and devastating wealth wipeout in the Canadian legal system. Now, let us pivot from the tragic story of the senior citizen and look at how this exact same mechanism is destroying the over-leveraged real estate investor. During the boom, speculators bought 4, 5, or 6 properties. They used the equity from one house to buy the next. Now, with interest rates crushing their cash flow, they are bleeding money every month. They are juggling payments to major banks and private lenders. When the property tax bill arrives, the investor makes a strategic but fatal error. They look at the penalty interest rate charged by the city for late taxes, which might be 15% annually. Then they look at the penalty interest rate charged by their private lender, which might be 25%. The investor decides to pay the private lender and ignore the city. They think they are being clever with their cash flow. They think they can outsmart the system. But the investor forgets about the automation of the modern financial system. The moment the city registers the tax arrears certificate on the title of the investment property, a digital alarm goes off. Every private lender, every mortgage investment corporation, and every major bank uses software that constantly monitors the land registry for changes to the titles of their collateral. The software detects the municipal tax lien. The private lender knows that the municipal lien threatens their security. The private lender's automated system instantly generates a demand letter. The investor receives a notice saying that because they have allowed a super-priority lien to be registered against the property, they are in fundamental breach of their mortgage covenant. The private lender calls the entire loan due immediately. The investor cannot pay. The private lender initiates power of sale proceedings. But because the investor cross-collateralized their properties using the same private lender for multiple homes, the default on one property triggers a cross default on all of their properties. A single unpaid property tax bill on one townhouse initiates a chain reaction that results in the private lender seizing the investor's entire portfolio, including their own primary residence. The dominoes fall and the empire collapses, all because the investor tried to treat the municipal government like a low-priority credit card. This crisis is accelerating right now because the leniency of the past is gone. During the pandemic, many municipalities paused tax sales. They offered deferral programs. They did not want the bad public relations of evicting people during a health crisis. But the pandemic is over, and the municipal coffers are empty. The mayors and city councils are looking at massive budget shortfalls. They are being told by their finance departments that they have tens of millions of dollars sitting in uncollected property tax arrears. The political directive has changed. The order has been given to collect the debts. But we are seeing a massive surge in the publication of tax sale notices in local newspapers across Ontario, British Columbia, and Alberta. Municipalities are clearing the backlog. They are streamlining the process. They are no longer willing to act as a free credit facility for struggling homeowners or overextended speculators. You must also understand the danger of the assessment trap. Property taxes are based on the assessed value of your home. In many provinces, the assessment authorities paused the valuation updates for several years. Properties were being taxed based on their value from 4 or 5 years ago. But now, those assessments are being updated to reflect the massive spike in real estate prices that occurred during the pandemic boom. Even though the market is currently dropping, the new assessed value of your home might be 50% higher than the old assessed value. When the municipality applies their new higher tax rate to your new higher assessed value, the result is a property tax bill that causes absolute payment shock. We are talking about annual tax bills jumping from $6,000 to $10,000 in a single assessment cycle. This payment shock is pushing thousands of families who are barely surviving the high interest rates over the edge. They simply do not have the extra $400 a month in post-tax income to give to the city. There is another insidious aspect to this that involves the shadow economy. Let us return to the illegal basement apartments we discussed in our previous videos. A homeowner converts their basement into 2 separate rental units to survive the mortgage payments. They do not get permits. They do not tell the city. They collect the rent in cash. Eventually, a neighbor complains about the parking, or a tenant calls bylaw enforcement over a dispute. The city inspector arrives. They discover the illegal units. The city does not just issue a small fine. The city retroactively reassesses the property from a single-family dwelling to a multi-residential income property. The property tax rate for a multi-residential property is significantly higher than a single-family home. The city sends the homeowner a retroactive tax bill for the last 3 years, based on the new commercial rate, plus penalties and interest. Suddenly, the homeowner owes $40,000 in back taxes payable immediately. If they cannot pay it, the city registers the tax arrears certificate. The bank is notified. The mortgage is recalled. The house is seized. The attempt to save the house through illegal rental income becomes the exact mechanism that destroys it. The government always gets its cut, and they have the ultimate legal authority to take your asset if you try to hide it. So, how do you protect yourself from the ultimate wealth wipeout? First, you must treat your property tax bill with the exact same level of terror and respect that you treat your mortgage. It is not an optional utility bill. It is a rent payment to the state for the privilege of keeping your land. If you have to choose between paying your credit card and paying your property tax, pay the tax. The credit card company can ruin your credit score. The city can take your house. Second, if you are a senior citizen on a fixed income and you are struggling with the property tax increases, you must proactively engage with the municipality before you fall into arrears. Many cities have senior tax deferral programs. These programs allow you to defer a portion of your annual property tax until the home is eventually sold or transferred to your estate. It is not free money. The city charges interest on the deferred amount, but it prevents the registration of a tax arrears certificate. It keeps you in your home. It prevents the public auction. You must apply for these programs early. You cannot wait until the final notice arrives. Third, if you have a family member, particularly an elderly parent who lives alone in a paid-off home, you must have a conversation with them about their taxes. A cognitive decline is a major factor in tax sales. An elderly parent might start hiding their mail, confused by the bills, and too proud to ask for help. They might have hundreds of thousands of dollars in equity, but lose it all because they forgot to write a check for $5,000. You must ensure their taxes are paid, even if you have to set up automatic withdrawals or pay it yourself. The cost of helping them with the tax bill is nothing compared to the catastrophic loss of their entire estate through a municipal auction. Fourth, if you are an investor, you must consolidate your debts and prioritize the super-priority liens. Do not play games with the municipal government. If you receive a notice of arrears, you must liquidate other assets, sell a vehicle, or sell the property yourself voluntarily before the city registers the certificate. The moment that certificate hits the land registry, you lose control of the narrative. Your private lenders will panic, your banks will panic, and your portfolio will be liquidated in a fire sale. Control the exit. Sell on your own terms. The great deleveraging is a multi-front war. The banks are squeezing the borrowers. The insurance companies are dropping the risk. The private lenders are recalling the liquidity. And now, the municipalities are enforcing the ultimate lien. The financial system is tightening every single loophole. The era of easy money, ignored bills, and endless extensions is over. The state needs revenue, and they are willing to take your most valuable asset to get it. You cannot afford to be ignorant of the mechanics of this collapse. You must understand the legal traps that are designed to extract equity from the uninformed. We will continue to track every legal maneuver, every banking policy, and every municipal crackdown. Subscribe to Canada Property Watch. We are reading the provincial statutes and the municipal bylaws that govern your wealth. We are here to provide you with the harsh, unfiltered reality of the Canadian property market, so you can build an impenetrable fortress around your assets. Do not let a single piece of paper from the city destroy a lifetime of hard work. Pay the tax, protect the title, and never assume that a paid-off home is truly yours.